I remembered Jim's description of the woman who made her. How could a woman like that make a beautiful doll? My name is Stephen Amony, and I am a doctor. I live and work in London, and I have a house by the River Thames. Everything in this story happened because of a doll. It is a strange story, but true. It began on an October day 3 years ago. I can remember it clearly. The early morning sun was shining on the river when I left my house. I went to buy a copy of the Times, as usual. There was a flower shop on the corner of the road where I lived. I could see the brightly coloured flowers as I reached the corner. I turned into Abbey Lane and continued walking. I was enjoying the warm October sun. After a few minutes, I arrived at the newspaper shop. Suddenly, I remembered that it was a niece's birthday the next week, so I stopped and looked in the shop window. There were games and toys, paper and pens, books and sweets in the window. Most of it has been in that window for years, I thought to myself. I almost decided that there was nothing in the window for my niece. Then I saw a doll. She was half hidden in the corner of the window. She was made of cloth, and she had a painted face. The face was special. It had a lovely, gentle look, but sad eyes. Suddenly, I felt sorry for her, sitting in that crowded window. I know that this sounds strange, but I decided to go inside and to look at her more closely. The shop was owned by a man named Jim Carter. "Good morning, Dr. Amony," he said brightly when I walked in. "Do you want the Times as usual?" "Yes, please, Jim," I replied. "And I need a present for a little girl. It's her birthday next week." "Is it?" said Jim. "Yes," I said. "I was looking at that cloth doll in your window." "Oh?" said Jim. "The one that's half hidden in the corner," I said. Jim looked surprised. "That doll?" he said. "She's a little unusual." "Can I see her?" I said. "She's also very expensive," he said. He took the doll from the window and gave her to me, and I nearly dropped her in surprise. She was beautifully made. She seemed almost alive. Her dress and other clothes were handmade, not made by a machine. And her face was hand-painted. I could see it clearly now. She's lovely, I thought. She was made with a lot of love. I could see this love in the doll's face. I put her down gently. "How much do you want for her, Jim?" I asked. £12, Dr. Amony," he answered. He saw the surprise in my face and continued, "She's expensive. I did say that, didn't I?" "You did," I agreed. "Dolls like this cost as much as £20 in the centre of London," said Jim. "But I'll tell you what I'll do, Doctor. I'll sell her to you for £11. "Who makes them?" I asked. I'd like to know something about the person who can make beautiful dolls like this." "The woman has lived in Hardley Street for some years now," said Jim. "She sometimes comes into my shop, and she brings me the dolls." "What's her name?" I asked. "I'm not sure," Jim answered. "It's something like Calamy." "What's she like?" I said. "She's a tall woman with red hair, and she wears very expensive coats and hats," replied Jim. "But she's got a very serious face. She never says very much when she comes into the shop. I'm honestly always glad when she leaves." He stopped for a minute, and then said, "And I've never seen her smile." I couldn't understand this. "I'll buy the doll," I said at last. £11 seemed a lot of money for a doll. As I counted out the pound notes, I felt a little silly. Yes, the doll was a present, but I knew the real reason for buying her. I didn't want to leave her in that shop window. I took the doll home and put her in my small bedroom. She seemed to fill the room with her loveliness. I carefully put her into a box. Then I covered the box with brown paper. Later in the afternoon, I went to the post office and posted it to my niece. In the following days, I could not stop thinking about the doll, or about the gentle face and the sad eyes. I remembered Jim's description of the woman who made her. How could a woman like that make a beautiful doll? It was difficult to believe. So who was she? I wanted to know, but the weather got cold and wet. Children in the area became ill, and I was suddenly very busy. I soon forgot about the woman and the doll. One day, a few weeks later, my telephone rang. "Yes, it is," I said. "Do you visit people who can pay for your visit?" the woman asked. "Yes, sometimes," I replied. "How much does it cost?" she asked. The voice sounded unpleasant. The woman seemed to think that money was more important than the sick person. "A visit will cost £5, I replied. "Oh," she said. "But if you really can't pay, then I don't ask for the money," I said. "That's all right," she said. "I can pay £5. "What's your name?" I asked. "Rose Calamit," she answered. "I live in the house next to the cake shop in Hardley Street. My rooms are on the 2nd floor. "I'll be there soon," I told her. I arrived at the house next to the cake shop in Hardley Street 10 minutes later and went up the stairs. They were narrow, dirty, and badly lit. As I reached the top of the stairs, a door opened. "Dr. Amony?" said the unpleasant voice. "Yes," I said. "Please come in," she said. "I'm Rose Calamit." She was a tall woman, between 45 and 50 years old. She had red hair, dark eyes, and a bright, shiny red mouth. We went into the front room. It was a cold, ugly room, and the furniture was cheap and badly made. "Oh, don't," she said. "Don't ask me that." I didn't want her to suffer, but I had to be sure that I was right. "I'm sorry, Mary," I said. "Please try and walk. It's important." She got up from her chair very carefully and moved slowly towards me. I looked closely at her left leg. Yes, I was right. "That's good," I said. I smiled at her. I wanted to show her that I was pleased. I held out my hands to help her. She looked up. Again, I saw the pain and hopelessness in her face. She seemed to be crying out silently to me for help. She lifted her hands towards mine, and then they fell back to her sides. "How long have you been like this, Mary?" I asked. Rose Calumet answered for the girl. "Oh, Mary's had that twisted leg for nearly 10 years now," she said. "But I asked you to come for a different reason. She's ill. I want to know what's wrong with her." Oh, yes, she's ill, I thought. Perhaps she's dying. I knew that immediately. I wanted Rose Calumet to leave the room, but she didn't. She laughed and said, "I'm staying here, Dr. Amony. You look at Mary, then you can tell me what the problem is." When I finished my examination of Mary, I went with Rose into the front room. "It's possible to make her legs straight," I said. "Stop!" she shouted loudly. I jumped. "That's enough. You must never say anything about that to her. The best doctors cannot help her. Without Mary and the dolls, the money will end." But what was killing Mary? I still did not know. I discovered more about Mary during my next few visits. Her name was Mary Nolan. When she was 15 years old, she was in a bad car crash. Her mother and father were killed, and Mary was very badly hurt. The car crash was the reason for her twisted leg. Rose Calumet offered to look after Mary. The law finally agreed because there was no other person to look after the young girl. Rose always thought that Mary's father was a rich man. Then she learned that there was only a small amount of money. After that, she was unkind to Mary. She made her very unhappy. Mary was never able to forget her leg. Her aunt seemed to say, "No man will love you. You will never get married and have children. No man wants a wife with a twisted leg." The years passed, and Mary began to believe her aunt. She stayed with her. She did what her aunt wanted her to do. She could see no reason to leave her aunt, so she lived an unhappy life without hope. Then Mary started to make the dolls. Rose Calumet saw how lovely the dolls were. She soon realized that she could sell them for a lot of money. She was right. After she sold a few, she decided Mary must work on them every day of the week, from morning until night. Rose did not love Mary, But the girl produced hundreds of dolls over the years. Rose was happy to take the money for them. But now Mary was ill, and Rose immediately said to herself, "Without Mary and the dolls, the money will end." But what was killing Mary? I still did not know. I could see that she was afraid of her aunt, but it wasn't that. And I couldn't ask Mary, because her aunt was always with us. Mary found it difficult to say anything to me with Rose in the room. I did not tell Mary that perhaps I could make her legs straight. It was more important to discover why she didn't want to continue living. I told Mary to stop working on the dolls, and I brought her some books and some chocolates. For 10 days, she seemed to get better. During my next visit, she smiled at me for the first time. "That's better," I said. I was very pleased to see her happy face. "You must leave the dolls alone for another 10 days. I thought about this all through the night, and the next morning I telephoned Jim Carter at his shop. "This is Dr. Amony, Jim," I said. "I'll do what I can for you, Doctor," Jim said. "You saved my son's life last year, and I'll never forget that. How can I help you?" "Thanks, Jim," I said. "Yes, of course," said Jim. "When she comes into your shop again, I want you to telephone me. Then have a long conversation with her," I said. "I need 20 minutes. All right?" "All right," said Jim. "Good," I said. "Thanks, Jim. I'll remember this for the rest of my life." I was worried about a telephone call while I was out, so each evening I put my head round the door of his shop, but he just shook his head. There was no news. Then, one day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the telephone rang. It was Jim. He just said, "She's here." I ran to the house where Mary lived. When I got there, I ran up the stairs. Luckily, the door was not locked, and I hurried through into Mary's room. She looked so thin now, and very ill. She still had the paints and pieces of cloth around her. I thought, she wants to make one more doll before she dies. She looked up when I came into the room. Her eyes opened wide in surprise when she saw me. She thought that it was Rose. She said my name, but she didn't call me Dr. Amony. She called me Stephen. "Mary," I cried, "I've come to help you. I know what's making you ill." "Does it matter now?" she said quietly. "There's still time, Mary," I said. "I know your secret. I know how I can make you well, but you must listen to me while I tell you." She just closed her eyes and said quietly, "No. Don't say anything, please. Leave me. I don't want to know. The end is near now." I sat down and held her hand. "Mary, please listen to me," I said gently. "When children are growing up, they receive love from their family. Then, when they're older, they can give that love to other people. They give love, and at the same time, they receive kindness, happiness, and hope. Then they have more love that they can give. But you've given your love, Mary, and you've received nothing. Now you have no love that you can give." I was not sure that she could still hear me, but I wanted her to live so much. I had to continue. "It was your aunt," I said. "She took away all your hopes for love and happiness."
Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel to see the latest videos. Thank you.